The Steam Summer Sale is here, so if you've been holding out for some great JRPG deals, now is the time to lay down your cards. And I've got 15 heavily discounted games in this video that I would happily recommend at full price, let alone at the steals they're at right now. And we'll start with Trails of Cold Steel, which is currently 50% off at £14.99. This is one of the few decent starting points in the Trails series if you'd rather not play the original Sky First chapter, which I guess is understandable now because the remake is coming out in September. I'll always say that Cold Steel is a great starting point because it was the game that brought me in nearly a decade ago, so it makes sense to me. It takes place in the Erebonian Empire at Ford's Military Academy, centered around the specially crafted Class 7. Cold Steel has everything the Trails series is known for, like satisfying turn-based combat, utilising arts and crafts, amazing music, a real sense of scale in the world and a great cast of characters. All of these together, in a bubble, easily elevate Cold Steel to at least a recommendation, especially at such a low price. Second on the list is Tales of Arise, which is 75% off, so you can purchase it for a very tasty £8.74. Completely worth it. Since its release in 2021, some have soured on Tales of Arise, but I still firmly believe it's a great game, especially if you've not played a Tales game before. I played this game non-stop when it came out, and I made all my workmates know about it too, on the clock might I add. I was soon told to get back to work. Amazing presentation, good action-based gameplay with a solid amount of options available, the soundtrack is brilliant and the characters are good. The quality of the story varies depending on who you ask, but for my personal taste, it's nowhere near as bad as some make it out to be. It has an annoying final dungeon, but that's about it. For less than a tenner, that is an easy recommendation. As is Persona 5 Royal, it's 60% off and it will cost you £19.99. Hey, you'd be spending more on Uber Eats in this day and age. What can I say about Royal that hasn't already been said a million times before? Put it this way, the game's quality should be apparent merely from the amount of people who sing its praises. As a recommendation to JRPG fans, Persona 5 Royal is pretty much a reflex. It immediately comes to mind. You're looking at about 100 hours on the base game alone, and then add in the Royal content, we're talking insane value for money here. It looks amazing, the press turn combat is excellent, characters are brilliant, gameplay loop is addictive, music is some of the best you'll hear in the genre, you just can't go wrong with this one. To the Ys series now for action-hungry fans, and I'll be putting the spotlight on Ys 7. 40% off, and it will cost you £11.99. To this day, it's still in my top 3 Ys games simply because it is the representation of what a great game in the series is. You've got the sense of adventure, inspired bosses with multiple phases, decent difficulty, amazing music, and arguably the best dungeon design the series has ever seen. I will admit the characters who accompany Adol aren't as strong as previous games, but it's made up for with the excellent antagonist who remains my favourite till this day. There's no doubt that the gameplay becomes more refined in later entries, but it's still insanely fun. And really, that's all I ask for when it comes to gameplay. I love Ys 7. It's got so many elements within it that I value in the Ys series, and I'll sing its praises as long as I have this channel. Now Square Enix aren't being left out of this either because they have put Octopath Traveler 2 on sale, £24.99 and 50% off. For me, it's a 10 out of 10 game. Nearly everything I look for in a turn-based RPG is in Octopath Traveler 2, and it's at a very high level in each part. 8 stories with 8 different protagonists that eventually comes together into one beautiful whole. From my memory, there was not one character arc that disappointed me. All of them were enjoyable. The world is massive, you can explore it in whatever order you want essentially. Turn-based combat is fast and visceral, huge amounts of customization in terms of the classes you can use, and the music is fantastic. The issues I have with Octopath Traveler 2 are so minute, they're not even nitpicks. One of the best JRPGs to release in the past 10 years. Okay, now we're moving on to a very big discount, but that is by no means because it's a bad game. Action RPG Scarlet Nexus is up next, 84% off, and it will cost you £6.39. In some countries, that's less than a meal deal on your lunch break. Scarlet Nexus isn't at the same level of praise as Octopath 2, of that I'll concede, but I still had a great time with this game back in 2021. dual pro tags with a good amount of unique story elements between them to make 2 playthroughs worthwhile, the psychokinetic powers are always fun to use, and the gameplay feels slick and responsive. And the characters, they're good in the majority. For the price it's asking, this is a no-brainer. And the same holds true for Bravely Default 2, which is 60% off and will cost you £19.99. Bravely Default 2 is a game that is all about the player. It puts full control into the hands of the one holding the controller and leaves it up to them. What the player puts into it is what they get out of it. Bravely Default 2 is effectively an older Final Fantasy game in all but name, which is not surprising considering that the franchise was originally meant to be Final Fantasy, but that's for another time. It has a story centered around crystals of power, a job system, and that high fantasy setting with an enjoyable turn-based combat system utilising the Brave and Default mechanics. The highlight is no doubt the customization though. There are 24 jobs in total, 3 of which are optional, and it's ludicrously fun and flexible. You learn a bunch of skills, both active and passive, as you level them up to a max of level 15, and you can combine a main and sub job at any time you wish. It's that freedom that allows a player to outright break the game at any point, which is fine with me. Breaking a game by understanding mechanics is not a bad thing, and it never will be. This game is brilliant and will always get my stamp of approval. Moving to Gust now with Atelier Sophie 2, which is 50% off and will cost you £24.99, which is completely worth it for what is, in my opinion, the best game in the series. Atelier Sophie 2 is the idyllic representation of what a modern Atelier game should be, with a perfect balance between the crafting and its other elements. The crafting, however, remains the focus, with all the other mechanics feeding into it and its ever-deepening depth over the course of the game. Sophie 2 has a great cast of characters, it has very fun turn-based combat, the undoubted light-hearted approach of the franchise is on full display, and it has a brilliant OST. It's totally worth the money. We're shifting back to the year 2000 now for a classic RPG. It's Final Fantasy IX, which is currently 70% off and it'll cost you £4.79. For some, it's the best game within the series, which for Final Fantasy is extremely high praise. And though I don't share that sentiment, I still believe it's a fantastic game and has held up in many respects. It's a classic case of having that retro feel. Retro in my eyes means you can pick it up and still have fun, which is definitely the case for Final Fantasy IX. It is far from outdated. A fantastic cast of characters, a deep and engaging story, solid turn-based combat for the most part, and a huge amount of stuff to do in the game in terms of optional content. You cannot go wrong with this one. And if the year 2000 wasn't far back enough, we're turning the clock back further 5 more years to 1995 so we can revisit Chrono Trigger. It's 50% off and it's going to cost you £5.99, which for the best retro game I've played to date is a steal. Chrono Trigger is a timeless classic. It's still an absolute joy to play in the present day. The pacing of the game is perfect, very little bloat to its playtime, a multitude of ways to approach the conclusion, a time-travelling adventure that captures the imagination, the ever-recognisable style of Akira Toriyama, great turn-based combat, and an amazing OST. This is one of the easiest recommendations around at full price, let alone 50% off. Level 5 are getting some recognition now with Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, which is 85% off and it will cost you £5.99. This is a game that I consider to be a great starting JRPG. All the fundamentals are there, it's got a huge amount of polish and you've got the immediately identifiable art style of Studio Ghibli that a newer player can relate to. And outside of its opening moments, it's quite a cozy game, a standard RPG adventure that will always have charm. The combat is good, no doubt hampered by some shaky AI teammates, but the idea of catching creature companions to use in battle is such a great hook for the gameplay. You've got a small but excellent cast of characters, a beautifully realised world, great soundtrack, and though it starts to run out of steam near the end, it's an easy recommendation at its current price. And I echo that sentiment for one of the best tactical games in the space, which is Valkyria Chronicles. It's currently 75% off and will cost you, wait for it, £3.74. Like, what? Are you kidding? That's practically giving it away. A game of this quality? Just put it in your basket. Play it now. It's set during the Second European War, which is evidently drawn from the actual events of World War II, and sees players take control of Welkin and Alicia as they fight back against the Eastern Empire in an effort to defend their home of Brawl. The tactical gameplay is not only unique within the JRPG space, but also extremely fun. The canvas art style is timeless, Hitoshi Sakamoto brings his practiced hand to the OST, and it's such an addictive game to play. I couldn't pull myself away from it when I first played it all those years back. I've no doubt that it is still as good as it was back then. We're not done with strategic games either, because next up is the remade Langresser 1 and 2 collection, which is 70% off, so it's going to cost you £14.99. There was a time when Langresser was on a pedestal all its own within the SRPG sphere, and though it no longer holds that same level of prestige, the games are still a blast, and modern players were fortunate that the first two games were remade and brought west back in 2020. There's a good chance many of them would have never even heard of it till this point. Both games have great gameplay. The story of Langresser 1 is okay, while 2 is a definite improvement, and you've got multiple endings, so there's plenty of replayability on offer. If you like strategic titles, you can't go wrong with this one. Our penultimate game is an indie title called Shadows of Adam. It's £2.74 and is currently 75% off. Once again, a steal. This also comes from the same team that are developing an upcoming title known as Quartet, which a lot of JRPG fans are looking forward to, so if you want a taste of what they're capable of, this could be a taster. What I have to give Shadows of Adam real praise for is that despite being a short game, it packs that time with meaningful content, like backgrounds on each character and how it shapes them into who they are in the present age, with a fairly decent story backing it up. It's got an enjoyable turn-based approach with equally solid levels of customization, a notable array of puzzles if that's what you're into, and a good amount of challenge in the later stages. £2.74 is a steal for this game. And though this last one isn't discounted to the same level as Shadows of Adam, the price being asked for it is once again a steal in my eyes. 35% off for the sale, £19.17 will get you Witchbring R, which is an overlooked gem of a game. This here is a game that combines the relaxing atmosphere of Atelier with a deeper story and creature taming aspects. Witchbring R is just such a joy to play from start to finish. It's helmed by a fantastic protagonist in Pieberry, whose stat growth is mostly in the hands of the player via some simple minigames. Import is put on exploring the world to find additional pets which will open up previously inaccessible areas, finding materials for better equipment and spells, and seeking out the notable amount of side quests hidden throughout the world. You can constantly feel the tangible progression that Witchbring R offers, and it keeps the experience engaging through its relatively short runtime of around about 20 hours. It's a perfect palate cleanser and well worth the price of admission. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe for more JRPG content, and consider joining my Patreon if you're interested. Peace!